Hey YouTube, Prof Sales coming at you with a video, and this video is about year-end goals and beginning of new year goals. I wanted to take some time to talk to you about my process for going through and setting new goals and objectives for the upcoming year and what that should look like. And hopefully this process will be useful to you. Maybe you can use it, incorporate it in your own business, use it to come up with your own objectives and ways that you want to measure your success over the next 12 months. So let's get right into it. So the first thing you want to do when coming up with your goals for the next year is think about what is your objective. So I'm going to write that up. What is your objective? Now, this is kind of applicable to your why and what. Why do you do what you do? Whether it's you're reselling, you're an entrepreneur, you're running an antique booth, and what do you hope to accomplish with it? I think those two kind of go hand in hand. This one I think is the most important one, the why, because if you don't know your why, nothing else really matters. It's going to be hard to ever achieve your what or your how or your when or any of those. You got to have a good why, and that why is going to be different for everybody. My why is I like to work for myself. I don't like to work for anyone else. I can't see myself ever being employed again by another company. So for me, it's about being in business for myself and all the benefits that come from that. That's my why. And my what is obviously reselling in terms of Amazon, eBay, different items I'm selling and so on, as well as this YouTube channel and so on. So the first part is to come up with your objective. And once you've done that, everything is going to kind of flow from the objective. All right, so we've talked about the objective. Now you need to come up with a statement and say exactly what your objective is. And this is the part where a lot of people really get tripped up. Your objective doesn't have to be super specific, but it is going to have to be measurable. And it's going to have something that you can know how far you've gone towards it. And we'll get into what that looks like in a moment. But it can't be so pie in the sky that it doesn't really mean anything. Like for instance, to say my objective is to make money. Well, you can make money in lots of different ways, but if you want to do it in a very specific way, like for instance, you wanted to open up a business and become an entrepreneur, obviously money is going to be a result of that, but it's not going to really be the objective of it. So I'm going to give you an objective that I'm going to use this year for my YouTube business. So my objective is to maximize the reach and quality content of my channel. Now, that's a pretty broad objective, to maximize the reach and quality content of my channel. But maximize, of course, means to make as large as possible, to make as robust as possible. So I want to maximize my reach of my channel, and in other words, reach as many people as possible. But I also want to have very good content for them. That's important for me. If the content's not good, it doesn't matter how many people I reach. So I've got to have this piece as well. So this gives me kind of an overall objective of maximizing my reach and the quality content of my channel. I can take that now and break that down into further steps. So let's get right into that. All right, so now I've come up with my objective to maximize the reach and quality content of my channel for the upcoming year. So let's break that into pieces, and we're going to talk about strategy. That's the next part of this. We've already had our objective. Now we're going to talk about our strategy. So let's look at the quality content piece. Quality content. And what does that mean? Well, quality content obviously means content, at least in my view, that is meaningful and helpful for the people who watch it. Obviously, I could put out any kind of content I wanted. I could sit here and stare at the wall for an hour, but I don't think there would be very much quality, certainly not for me, and definitely not for you watching either. So quality for me means content that I feel that once I put it out, if people watch it, they're going to be able to get something from it. So I'm going to have a strategy. Here's our next big word or term. a strategy of how I'm going to put out this quality content. All right? So I'm going to have a strategy of a few things here. I'm going to always keep the viewer first. This is the Prof Sales channel, but it's not about me. It's my views and my ideas about certain things, but ultimately I want the viewer to get something out of it. That's the reason I do what I do. That's why I like, YouTube, and because I have a teacher's mindset, I always have. So I'm always going to try to keep the viewer first and keep the viewer in mind when I'm making content. So that's part of my strategy for putting out quality content. The other part of it is always have the highest production values possible. So what does that mean? That means using good equipment to the best that I can. Obviously, I can't afford to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars for video editing equipment and cameras, but using what I have in the best way I can. Making sure that the lighting is as good as I can make it, that the sound is good, that you can hear me okay, that any graphics that I put up, augment the content and help you understand it better. Just because you're making videos on a budget doesn't mean you can't do it as professionally as possible. Just because you open up a small little retail store doesn't mean that you can't treat people with world-class customer service. There's no reason you can't have high production values in whatever you do in life. You just have to commit to it. And then obviously, means I also have to understand what that should look like, and it's going to take some time and research and so on. But there are some strategies for producing quality content, and I could probably come up with more, but let's move into some of the tactics now on how I'm going to do these things. All right, we've talked about an objective, we've talked about strategy. Next up is tactics. And this is the one where everybody likes to get involved, it seems like, is tactics. What am I going to do precisely? All right, so I always want to produce quality content. We talked about that in the strategy piece. So what tactics can I use to produce quality content? All right, well, I think there's a lot of tactics I could use. First off, I could use quality equipment. I use my iPhone to record videos a lot of times, or my Mac. Right now I'm using the iPhone, but I also have a microphone on, a shotgun mic, which helps bring the sound in a little bit better. That's going to help the quality of my videos and providing quality content. Research viewer needs. This is an interesting one. I get a lot of people commenting on my videos and sometimes sending me emails and messages through YouTube. It's a mistake if I ignore those comments and those questions and those needs. Now, it gets difficult as your channel grows to continually be, answering every single question that comes in, but there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of needs, and just because I think I know what you need doesn't mean that that's correct. You have to be able to connect with your viewers if you're running a YouTube channel. And if you want to build a community and build one that sustains itself, and to do that, you've got to talk to people. So I do a lot of live shows where I interact with people in the chat room. Obviously, when people leave me comments and questions, I read all of them. Sometimes I don't get a chance to respond to all of them, but I do read them. And often I get ideas for videos and new content straight from the viewers, because someone will say, "Hey, Prof, what about a video about this, subject X?" And then I'm like, man, that's a great topic. I never thought about that before. Let me explore that. So then I will go and do some research on subject X. And if I can make a video that I think will provide quality content to my viewers, I'll do it. If I can't do that, then I will not do the video and say, look, subject X is very important. I just don't feel like I'm qualified enough to talk to you about it in a meaningful way and impactful way. And that's okay too. You should never try to put yourself out there as an expert in something that you're really not an expert in. People will see through it, and you're going to end up giving people bad advice. So I always want to be able to take my tactics and use quality equipment and research my viewer needs. And by doing those two things, and there's other things too, I will be able to hopefully, maximize the experience that people have with my channel and my videos. The next piece to coming up with your goals and objectives for the year is to think about your expected outcomes. So I'm going to write that up. You could call that expected outcomes. All right, so I want to maximize my viewer experience on my channel. I want to provide them with quality content and expand the reach of my channel. So what does that look like? Now, this is where a lot of people get tripped up, because your expected outcomes have to be measurable. I know there will be people out there who will say, well, I'm a better business person this year than I was last year. That may be true, but can you measure it? Your own measurement. Now, you don't want to compare. I don't want to suggest that you compare yourself to someone who has a bigger business than you, a bigger channel than you, whatever your metrics is, because that may not be a fair comparison. Compare yourself to yourself. I think that's the key. So I want to think about my expected outcomes for my YouTube channel for next year in terms of myself, comparing myself to myself. So I'm going to talk about a few metrics here just for YouTube. So we'll write up here YouTube metrics. So right now I have around 3,400 subscribers. And I'm gaining subscribers every day. I'm gaining subscribers every week, every month. There are some tools on, I think one of them is called socialblade.com, which can show you some projections about your channel if you keep going in the current rate and so on, and what your channel will look like, within a month and 6 months and a year and so on. And I've spent some time there, researching my channel, looking at it and seeing what my projections might be. So I've kind of given myself a goal to grow my channel to 10,000 by the end of year 2017. So that's a measurable goal, because I know what I'm going to be at the beginning of the year. I know I can look and see what I'll be at the end of the year. Now, does that mean that I'm a roaring success? No. It just means that I met goals that were relative to my current state. Is 10,000 a good goal? Is it too high or too low? No way to know. But that tool I was telling you about gave me the idea that I probably will be somewhere in that range. And it's a nice goal. It's a nice round number. I could push myself and try to go after that a little bit more. But it's a nice number to shoot for, right? It doesn't mean anything. It's not like it's substantively greater than 9,999 or a lot weaker than 10,001. But it's a nice goal to shoot for. So that's one of them. Another one is views. Right now, I believe I have about I have about 145K views. I'm not, now subs obviously translate to views with a YouTube channel, but not definitively. But I can make some some judgment here about what I might be like. We can see here I'm basically tripling. So you might think I might be somewhere around a triple of that. So I believe that's about 435 by end of year. So again, these things go hand in hand. As you get more subscribers, it tends to get more views. Your channel also gets viewed by people who are not subscribers, not just subscribers, but we're just thinking about roughly a tripling of my channel size by the end of next year. So that's my goal. So it's just a number to look at. It doesn't mean that, it's necessarily going to be right there. So those are two metrics that I can measure with my YouTube channel. And there's others too. There's revenue from AdSense. There's minutes watched. There's all kinds of demographic. YouTube gives you great analytics. But I'm going to say that you have all kinds of metrics with your business as well. So let's talk about those for a minute. So you've been in business in 2016 to some degree. Maybe you started at the beginning of the year. Maybe you've been in business for many years. Maybe you started in the middle of the year. Maybe you did this platform or that platform. Maybe you sell on Craigslist, doesn't matter. But you have some data, I would bet, that you can look at. One thing you can look at is you can look at your 2016 sales. All right? So you've got 2016 sales. Now, you're going to go along here and eventually you're going to have 2017 sales. You may be at a happy place where you don't really want to or need to increase your sales, but you do need to maintain them. So let's say your 2016 sales were $40,000 gross. And let's say you want to increase your sales in 2017 to 60K. All right? That's very measurable. In fact, you could even take 60K divided by 12 and say that you need to do 5K a month. Right? And you could break that down even further if you wanted into, I don't know, what does it come out to? About 200, about 85 bucks a 85 bucks a day, somewhere in there. I don't know if my math's exactly right. But you can keep breaking it down and you can look and see how you're trending as you go into this month and you can make adjustments. But you also know that a lot of things went into this 40K. For instance, you know, let's say that you sell on eBay. And let's say you had 500 items listed on average. Now, it's important to say on average, guys, because I see a lot of people that look at their total at the end of the year or their total at the beginning of the year, and then maybe their listing capacity went up or down based on various factors. But let's say there was 500 items on average, all right? And there's ways to figure that out that are beyond this video, but you're probably going to have a good idea about how many you had listed over the course of a year. Math would tell us overall that if we want to go from 40 to 60, that's a 50% increase. All things being equal, assuming you're getting the same sell-through, assuming you're selling at the same price and the market for the items you're selling doesn't drop off or increase dramatically in one way or another, you're going to have to have 50% more items listed. So 500 to 50% more gives us a total of 750 items. So you're going to have to have 750 items listed on average for 2017 to hit this goal, assuming all these other factors don't change. Your sell-through rate and the average cost that you sell things for and so on. So you got to think to yourself, well, that's 250 more each day that you have to, but you've got to go source 250 more. So you got to source, you've got a photo potentially, you've got a list, 250 more. All right? And you've got to keep doing that for the whole year. First of all, you got to list enough to get up this amount, and then you got to maintain it because you're going to sell more at 750 than you did at 500. You know, depending on what your sell-through is. Let's say your sell-through. Let's say you were selling 1% of your items each day. All right? That means you're selling 5 per day, or about 130. About 150 per month. So that means if you start off the year with 500, and in January you're going to sell 150, right? Which takes you down to 350, and you want to get up to 750. So you're going to need to list in January 150 to maintain your 500. So if you want to get to 750, you're going to have to list more than 150. Let's say you list 200. If you list 200, then at the end of that month you'll be at 550. You'll be assuming same sell-through and so on. It'll probably be a little bit less than that because you'll be selling just a few more items. But if you need to list another 50 items per month to kind of get up to this 750, you got to think about how you're going to do that. It's doable and it's easily trackable. But you're going to have to source more items, you're going to have to photograph more items, and you're going to have to list more items. So you got to have a plan in place for how you're going to do that. And you're not going to have any more time. That's the big kicker with all these goals, guys. 2017 is not going to have any more minutes or seconds or hours than 2016 did. But how you use them is up to you. So it might require you to focus more on your business. It might require you to hire someone. It might require you to have a family member help you out. It might require you to figure out another source of capital so you can source more items per month, so you can buy more to list more if that's how you're getting them. All these things are solvable problems, guys, but you need to put a little time and energy into thinking about how you're going to do them, because your tactics, which we talked about previously, will lead to your results. And then your expected outcomes are this, that you're going to go from there to there. But you're only going to do that if you go through this process in some form and figure out what it is you need to do to come out to hit your expected outcomes. Your outcomes don't happen by surprise or just by chance. They are a result of your efforts over time. You can't get too caught up in any one day or any one week or any one month even, I would argue. But over time, if you have a sustained increased effort, you're going to see a sustained increase in your results over time. But again, don't get too caught up on any one moment. But this exercise you could do with any expected outcome. All right? So maybe your expected outcome is a little bit simpler than all this. I'm gonna erase this so we can see a little bit different take on this. So maybe your expected outcome is not necessarily a sales goal. Maybe your expected outcome is, we will say, increased business knowledge. So that may seem like kind of a mystical subject, but let's examine what increased business knowledge looks like. So increased business knowledge means that you learn things about the business you're in that will help you become better at your business. That could be all kinds of subjects. It could be subjects on emotional mindset. It could be nuts and bolts tactics. It could be accounting issues. It could be your finances. It could be investing. It could be any of those subjects and lots more. But let's say that one of your expected outcomes for this year is to have increased business knowledge. So how would you measure that? Well, you might measure it by books read. Maybe you want to read a bunch of books on several different subjects, and you could come up with a plan to do that. You could read one each week or every 2 weeks, depending on how much time you have to devote to it. Maybe you want to learn more about, let's say, marketing, because you want to, or social marketing especially. You want to learn how to market your store, your items, whatever it is you're selling through social networks. There's lots of great guides out there, PDFs as well as full-on books that you could read about that and become more knowledgeable about it. And you can track your progress, and I recommend you do. If you read something that's going to improve your business results or you expose yourself to it, you need to give yourself credit for doing that. And then you need to take that knowledge and act on it, because that is what will help your expected outcome. You've gotten the new knowledge. Now take that and apply it to the parts of your business that are applicable. You might want to attend or go to some seminars. There's lots of seminars and webinars that you can go to online. They don't even require you to leave your home. A lot of times they can even be free. So the cost is, not really a factor. But in any case, you can learn a tremendous amount from other people who have knowledge that you really need to get. You could take courses. These are all tactics to achieve your expected outcome. But again, you can track which of these you did. So that's why I'm putting them here in expected outcomes. It's very easy to say, oh, I attended these 3 seminars this year, or I took a course in accounting, or whatever the subject is. So those are just some of the ways that you could track your expected outcomes for increasing your business knowledge. And I'm sure there's a lot more that you can probably think of. All right, last but not least is to reassess. You need to reassess your plan and your expected outcomes as you go. And this is not really that hard to do, and a lot of people get caught up on this step. But they always want to know, how do I know if what I'm doing is working or not? And it's very easy. You just go back to your expected outcomes. I'm going to write that as EO. You go back to your expected outcomes, and you can look at the timing of your expected outcomes. For instance, if you had a sales goal, as we mentioned earlier, you could check in on that monthly, quarterly, or even at the mid-year point. And you can readjust your plan. Perhaps you're not on track to be up 50% this year. All right. So why is that? Well, do you have the amount of listings that you needed up for your eBay business, for example? Did you make the recommended changes to your reading schedule that you planned at the beginning of the year? If you didn't, then there's your answer, and you need to reassess your devotion to your goals and so on, and what you're going to do differently in the next month or the next quarter or the next half of the year, whatever the time frame is. So looking at your expected outcomes and tracking them as you go will allow you to reassess if your plan is working or not. It's really not as difficult as people make it out to be. The problem comes in for a lot of us, including myself at times, is we look at our results and then make excuses for them. We say to ourselves, oh, well, it's because, the e-commerce platforms, traffic is down, or the stores around me, the prices of everything have gone way up. We make all these excuses for why our business is not where we want it to be. And really, all they are is just excuses. Because the reality is, for any successful business owner, especially an entrepreneur, is that at some point, and usually multiple points, you met an obstacle. You met an obstacle that seemed like it was defeating you, and you had to adjust your course. You had to figure out a way to go either below that obstacle, over that obstacle, around that obstacle, or just blow it up and get it out of your way. But whatever the obstacle was, you had to figure out a way to deal with it. So when your results are not what you want them to be, you have to decide, all right, I understand that these things are happening that are out of my control in these other areas, but that's no excuse. I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm not going to let that make me fail. I'm not going to get in this mindset of becoming a victim all the time and allowing circumstances to decide my destiny. I'm going to take control of it. I'm going to course correct. I'm going to figure out which way I need to go now to get the results that I know that I can get. And that's what good entrepreneurs and good business people do. They correct their course when it's not going the way they thought. Similarly, sometimes we set goals that are so low for ourselves that we are going to blow them out of the water, and we do that just because we want to feel good about ourselves. That's really not where you want to be at either with this process. You really want to find a place where you can go after objectives for your business that stretch you, that force you to adapt and evolve, but are also achievable, but not without a good amount of work and hard work put in, mental and otherwise. So I think that if you do all these things, if you come up with objectives, if you come up with a strategy based around your objectives, and you develop your tactics for each strategy, and then you look at your expected outcomes and reassess your business on a continual basis to make sure you're getting the results that you want to get, I think you're going to be a successful entrepreneur. You're going to be a successful seller on eBay or anywhere you want to go, really. But you've got to take control of your mindset around all these issues. It's not enough just to do things. Lots of entrepreneurs, including myself, we get in this habit of I'm just going to go do. And the reality is you eventually run out of time and energy to do that. And you can only do so much. And at some point you have to decide, all right, if I want to achieve my goals without killing myself, is it possible, or am I just buying myself a job? Because really, if you're just working in your business all the time and not working on it, you're not really going to evolve and grow very much. You're always going to be necessary. And you're going to find that you're going to become a bottleneck in your own business. You are the bottleneck. You are the source of the lack of growth because you can only do so much. So that's when you have to reassess your business model. You have to reassess what you're sourcing, what you're buying, what you're selling. You have to resource maybe the platform, or reassess the platform you're on, decide if employees or extra help are necessary. I mean, there's all these things that come into that calculation. And I can't tell you what's the best course of action for you. You have to decide that. It really goes back to what are your objectives. If you want to build a business that doesn't generate a lot of income each month, maybe just puts a little extra spending money in your pocket, and you only need to sell a few items to get that money, you probably can do that theoretically the rest of your life without any extra help or without much thought. On the other hand, I think the majority of resellers fall somewhere a little bit higher up that scale where they say, I need this to provide a second income. I need this to help with medical bills or student loan debt. I want to build this into a full-time endeavor for me so where it can pay all the bills and I can meet my financial goals. I want to be able to invest and save for retirement. Or I want to build a multi-million-dollar business. Or anywhere in between all those extremes. That forces you to look at your objectives and the ways in which you're going to reach them and what they are in a more critical manner. And I think that's always a good thing to do. No matter what level you're at, it's always good to reassess where you're at. And the new year is a perfect time to do that. So instead of making a New Year's resolution to lose more weight or to work out more or to travel more, whatever those common New Year's resolutions are, why not make a New Year's resolution to reassess your business objectives and reassess all the strategies and tactics and expected outcomes you hope to get in 2017 and make this a much better year than 2016 was for you, compared to you, not against me, not against anybody else, but against your own results. And I think if you do that, you're going to be really, really happy with the outcome, and I know you're going to have a great year in 2017. All right, guys, that's going to do it for now, and this is Prof Sales saying good sales to you.